name is Chris Hulse. I am the program quality director for this Toastmasters year. And thank you to everybody that was able to make it tonight. I know that some of you are actually coming from other districts. So welcome. You are here at a session being put on District 38, which is basically the Toastmasters district around Philadelphia. So it includes the eastern half of Pennsylvania and central and southern New Jersey. So one thing that we wanted to do ahead of contest season is really put some training out there, because we understand that for some people, they've never assisted with putting on a contest before, whether it's a club level contest or an area level or even a division level. And I know a lot of area directors and division directors, that is part of their responsibility. So we wanted to break it down and really give you some structure as to what goes into putting together a contest, because it is a lot. If you ever look at the rule book that Toastmasters puts out, it's very plentiful. But Ari did a great job of putting together in this presentation to supplement any reading that you do of the rule book that you should do. But we figured that this would give you the basis of that information and hopefully generate questions. So that's the other thing too, is we want this to be interactive. So feel free to, excuse me, a little frog in my throat here. Feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat, and we will try to answer them as we go along. But without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague and friend, Ari Valero, who is our contest advisor in District 38 for this year. Ari?
Thank you, Chris. So before I start, some of you might know me or might have seen me around. Some of you might not. So I have been in Toastmasters since 2007. So if you pull out your calculator, that turns out to be 16 years. And I've been a contestant in contests. I've organized contests, and I used to do it in the time before COVID, when we had this ritual where we will go into a room and the contestants and the judges will be in the same place, and we had paper ballots. And then the world changed, and now we have online contests. And I've been also involved in those. I was an area director for 2 years, so I had a chance to organize contests at the area level and help also at the division and a couple of times maybe at the district. So I've been involved with contests for a while. As Chris mentioned, what we're going to have today, it's going to be an introduction to speech contests. So session one is about the rules. So we basically, what I did, as Chris mentioned, is I summarized the rules of from the manual of what you need to do to run the contest. And there are a lot of key elements that we're gonna touch on there. Sometimes there are discussions of what people are interpreting about the rules, but if you go back to the manual, it's very clear. You go through everything is spelled there, and if we stick to it, makes things very easy. Now, our next session in next week is going to be about procedures. So all the planning, what you need to plan, checklist, and everything you need to do behind the scenes to be able to have a successful contest. And the best thing you can do to have a successful contest is prepare. If you prepare and execute with the plan, you have good checklists, that you have a good script, everything becomes very easy, and you can have a very successful contest. And our third session is going to be presented by Chris on October 24th. It's going to be about judging and all the procedure for protest. So I'm not going to touch on the protest today, because that's going to be discussed more in depth by Chris in a couple of weeks. So these are the things we're going to be touching today. I put the screenshot of the rule book for this year. So every year, Toastmasters issues a new version. It might be mostly the same, but there might be small changes. So this year we're following the one from July 1st, 2023 to June 30, 2024, which happens to have the picture of District 38 winner from a few years back. So that's just a coincidence. And these are the topics I'm going to touch on. In general, the speech contest policy, eligibility, which is very important because you don't want to have someone going to the next level who's not eligible, creates a lot of issues. The selection sequence, the subject, the speech subject and preparation, and just general procedure for the execution of the contest. Here's the first reason is why do we have contests? And we have them, well, because Toastmasters forces us to do it, but also because they provide an opportunity for members to go outside of the club. We go to our club meetings. When you go to a contest, you go to an area contest, you can go to the division, the district. It opens your opportunities and gives you also the chance to look at other presenters or other than what you are used to at your club. And you can compete, so you get the opportunity to show your capabilities, and if you win, you can keep progressing in all the series of contests. So it's something that complements the activities that you do in your club. It's an experience that opens up all your gives you a chance to practice all what you have learned in the club. The contest progression order, it's very simple. It's we start in the club. At the club level, you might have or might not. You don't have. You're not. If you're not forced to have a contest, it's better if you have it. But if your club is small and you cannot have it, you can have someone represent your club. From there, we go to the area. The winner of each area represented at the division contest, and then every division's winner goes to the district, and that district represents District 38 at the International Convention. And they're basically usually two parallel contests. One, every level has to have the international contest because that's the one that progresses to the international conference. And there's always the option of have a second contest that usually evaluation, humorous, table topics, or tall tales. This year for District 38, it was chances to be a humorous speech. And those speeches, they can be have all the levels, but it doesn't go after the districts. It's there. So that's the only difference. But they're run exactly in the same way. Now, as I said, one of the most important things is know who's eligible to be in the contest. So something that if you're an area director or a division director when you're running your contest is you have to make sure your contestants are eligible to participate. And what do they need to do it? Well, they need to be a paid member. First, if they haven't paid their dues, they cannot compete. And also the club must be in good standing. And that's a key issue. So in the first part, January, February, at that point, we're kind of halfway through what the club's dues were due. And then most of the time, I mean, most of the clubs should have been already eligible, have their 8 members at least. But in case there isn't, they will have to be in good standing before the contest starts. Where this could be an issue is when we get to the district level, because that contest could be in April, and April is just past when the club dues are due to Toastmasters. So if a contestant is representing their division at the district level, then it's very important that they are they are paid, and also the club is in good standing. So that's something that one of the very first thing for eligibility is to make sure that the member paid, also the club is in good standing. There's a note here where if it's a new dual or reinstated, something that they need to be current. The other part that applies, but this only applies to the international contest, is they need to have a completed level 1 and 2. So if they haven't completed them, well, they have time right now. If someone wants to compete, they have time to start working on their speeches to have at least those 2 levels completed to be eligible for the international contest. This doesn't apply for the humorous because it doesn't progress after the district. So anyone who's a member can compete. That rule doesn't apply. And one extra point here, which applies to members of new clubs. So we've had this last year a few clubs that chartered. So some of their members might have not been able to go through levels 1 and 2. So in that case, if that club chartered within a year, then a member who wants to compete is eligible, because it's difficult for Toastmasters to force them to have 2 levels completed if they have only been members for less than 1 year. That's a key issue there.
Ari, do you mind if I just make a comment? What I want to remind everyone is, as Ari mentioned about the eligibility, contestants must maintain eligibility throughout the contest, all contests. They cannot not pay dues, or the club can't fall out of good standing if at any point during the contest season it's determined that they are ineligible. They can't compete further. We've seen people deemed ineligible when they got to a very high level, let's say district and even beyond, going into the regional semifinals. A person had to be pulled back because they were determined to not have paid dues. There was a little bit of a lapse in dues. So that's critically important for everyone to understand and all of the contestants to comply by.
Yes.
Thanks, Ari.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so basically, and that could happen in the transition between March and April, right? If the club doesn't pay their dues and someone is going to the division contest, to the district contest, then even if it's a few days when the club was not in good standing, that's going to affect that contestant. So a club that has a member representing at the district level has to make sure they have their dues paid before the deadline of March 30th. Yeah, I see Grisel has raised her hand. Do you have a question?
Yes, good evening. Thank you for this training. And my question is, does that requirement of having continuity of this applicability requirements, let's say like Rhonda said, that it's important for the contestant to have paid the dues. So that it will be the same thing for level 1 and level 2 requirement. Let's say, for example, do they have to start the contest process having a level 2?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, to be able to be able to apply for, let's say in your club you have a contest and you win. When you go to the area contest at that level, you need to have that level 2 completed. You cannot say, well, if I win, then before I go to the division, I'll finish level 2. So all these requirements apply to all the levels. They're not specific to club or area. They apply for all the 4 levels.
Starting within the club level?
Yeah, so in the club there's flexibility, but in the end, let's say your club says Grisel is gonna represent us at the area level. If you're not eligible, even if the club wants to send you, then they can't. So basically, yes. So at the club level, there's no sense in someone participating in a contest if they don't have the requirements to move forward.
Thank you very much.
So some other rules about eligibility. It not only applies to contestants. It also applies to some other people who are involved in the contest. So in this case, the winner of the World Championship of Public Speaking cannot participate at the next year. They can participate the next year. It's just 1 year. Someone who's competing beyond the club, and you cannot be a judge and a contestant at the same contest. And something that's important, there are members who might be part of different clubs. And you say, well, I want to represent this club in this area and this other club. You cannot participate in 2 area contests. So basically will have to choose if you are able to represent two separate clubs at the same time, you can only participate in one and one. Once you do that, you have to continue representing that same club. So you cannot just participate in two area contests at the same time. If you're a judge or someone who's an official in a contest, you cannot be participating because you are part of the group that's organizing the contests. If this next rule applies, for example, at the conference, if there is an event which like the conference, if you are presenting an educational session, then you cannot be part of the contest. If you're a candidate for elective for an elected position in the district, which that all that process starts in January. So at the time when the contests are running, everybody knows who is trying to be elected for a district position. So you cannot be a contest either or current district officers. So it's just important to be aware of that. So if someone is not eligible for participating at different levels in the district or being a judge, then you cannot be a contestant. And the same thing happened for judges. There are conditions to be eligible. So if you're at a club level, any member can be a judge. At area, division, and district, you need to be a paid member. Same thing, but it also requires you to have a minimum of 6 months being a paid member. So you cannot have a lapse for a long time and say, well, I'll just pay my dues and next month be a judge. You need to be just for 6 months. And also you need 6 speeches and either something level 1 or 2. So that the 6 speeches is for the old program for competent communicator, or for pathways, it's level 1 and 2. So it's similar as a contestant. So if you were to be a judge, I'd basically want someone who has had some experience delivering speeches to be able to be a judge, because then you have an idea of what it takes to put together a good speech, and you'll be able to judge based on the criteria that's given for judging. So that's going to be the job of the contest chair, to check the eligibility both of the contestants and of the judges. And there are forms that need to be signed and need to be kept as part of the paperwork of the contest to show that everyone is eligible. As I mentioned at the beginning, there's the sequence of the contest. We start with the club, then we move to the area, then to the division, and finally to the district. That's for second district, and then it goes to international. Then each club can choose its contestants in whatever means it desires. As I mentioned earlier, you can either have a club contest, but if you can't, then someone volunteers. If the club agrees, they can propose that member to represent their club at the area level. So Toastmasters cannot force a club to hold a contest if they don't want to, or they're not able, but they can still represent. They can still be represented at the area. And after the district, only the international speech contest progresses to the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the world championship of public speaking. So in this case, for a district, the humorous speech, whoever wins at the district level, that's as far as they go in that path. When we're talking about the topics of the speeches, so the contestant is the one who decides what they're going to be talking about at all levels. No one can tell them, oh, you have to speak about this or that. That cannot be marked by anyone. But there are rules, and the one in the middle, it's actually very important, which says that only 25% or less of the speech contest can be devoted to quoting, paraphrasing, or referencing another person's content. And so one example is if you want to sing a song and you want to sing for a long time, then that's actually some material that's not original, or if you wanna quote a speech by someone very famous, but you make it such that it's 25% or more of your speech, then that automatically disqualifies you from that content. So it is very important that when if you are a contestant, that you put together a speech where you would prefer to be all original material. If you're gonna quote someone, it's fine, but it's also important that you quote, say, whose quote you are talking about, or this song is by this person, or what thing. It's very important. So that's a key issue to have that material be original, and you actually have to sign a form that says that your material is original. That's part of the forms that are required when you register for the speech.
Ari, I'm going to jump in a
Yep.
second. There was a question by Jeff, and I was actually just thinking about this as well to actually address it. So Jeff's question says, is that always measured in terms of time, words, or is there subjectivity with determined originality? Where really this comes into play is if somebody has a speech and it, like Ari described, it's referencing a popular song or someone else's speech, it really, that person should almost be prepared to have a protest brought against them, because it really comes down to it's not like we sit there and break it down and say, well, this many minutes and things like that. What's going to happen is, and this kind of leads into a section that I'm going to do on the 24th, is the actual process of when someone brings forth a protest. So it's one of those iffy things, is that if somebody decides to introduce material that is not theirs, they're really going to have to be prepared for other people to question it. So it really doesn't come down to like them or us saying like, okay, well, you use this many words or things like that. It just comes up in a protest. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, Ari?
Okay, thank you, Chris. Yeah, so basically nobody's gonna be measuring how long that the quote was. It's 1 minute 30 seconds, but yeah, it's more like a feeling. Oh, I felt it went for too long. Then the days of protest, then you need to be able to defend yourself. Another key point is, so when you are speaking, you are not allowed to reference another contestant. That's also something that can be protested. So if you say, oh, the previous presenter quoted such and such said this, you're not allowed to say that. Your material should be prepared and you just present it without any reference to other speeches. And this other point is also very important about the speaking area. So at the beginning of the contest, when the contest is introduced, and the contest chair is describing all the process and what's going to happen, they say, well, the chief judge, the voting, the judges, and the contestant were advised of the speaking area. And as long as we agree on what's the speaking area, everyone is aware, and applies to everyone, and it's fair. When it can get a little bit contentious, it's if you're in a room, you say, well, the whole room is the speaking area, so there's no problem. Or you say, well, the podium, or if there's a specific area behind the, I don't know, in front of the chair or something. The problem is when we have a video, right? Because you say, well, but if part of the speech, the speaker needs to go out and jump on screen, well, is he considered leaving the speaking area because they left the screen? So that the idea is, as long as before the contest, everybody agrees the rules are defined and everybody follows the rules, then they're all on the same, it's fair because everyone is following the same rules. But it is important to know that the speaking area is defined and it has to be followed by all the contestants as defined. I don't know, Chris, do you want to comment something on that? In the speaking area, in that we had some discussion before in previous years. Okay, so this is more on the, we would say, in the execution of the contest. It says all the general procedure stuff that we need to do or think about and when we are executing the contest. So at different levels, there are a different number of judges and officials that are needed. They're very similar, but they change a little bit. So at the contest level, and there is a line that says, if practical, you want to have a contest chair, a chief judge, at least 5 judges, and a tie-breaking judge. But it might take all of your club to do that with, there's no chance for contestants because there's not enough people. So you need to do it as practical as possible. When you go to the area level and division and district, then it becomes easier to be able to have that many judges. So basically, in all the contests, you're going to need the contest chair, the chief judge, the tiebreaker, 2 counters and 2 timers. The only thing that's going to change is the number of judges. So basically, you need at the area level 1 judge for each club, or at least 5 if there's an area that has more clubs. And there are some rules in which says if a certain area has more than, I think it's 4 or 5 clubs, then it's possible to split the area into 2 and have 2 separate contests. And then they both represent the division. I don't think that applies in our district, but I'm guessing that there are some districts that have areas with a lot of clubs, and then they try to break it down into smaller groups. At the division level, it's similar. It's just you need more judges. You need 1 from each area, or at least 7, and the same other officers apply. And at the district, you need 1 judge from each division, could be division area, or a minimum of 7 judges. And something that's important, since I see the tie-breaking judge cannot be from a club with a contestant. So what happens is when you have the judges at the division and district level, you need to find, if there's a contestant representing a club, you cannot have a judge from that club. You need to find it from other clubs. So it's important to look at that, because then that judge, you could feel that he has some preference from a contestant that representing their own club. So it's important to check who is judging and who is competing and make sure they're from different clubs. Something
Ari,
that,
before you, oh, sorry to interrupt, Ari. Just something I wanted to say to kind of build on that. Something that I've seen in my years at Toastmasters is that actually, could you go back to the last slide? I just want to kind of draw upon what you said about judges and finding judges. And I know that with these rules that Toastmasters imparts on us, that there is sometimes a feeling that it is hard to find judges for your contest, especially if you are at a certain level organizing the contest. But that being said, you also have to think about what makes sense and also what is fair to the contestants. So why I bring this up is that I've seen incidences where it could be 1 division within a district, but basically 1 division is using people from other divisions, maybe division directors or that sort of thing. And everybody's basically using the same set of people, or people from around the district, which again, the thought might be, well, I'm trying to get warm bodies who are able to judge my contest. Understood, but at the same time, you don't want to create a situation at a division level contest where it's basically acting like a district contest. What I mean by that is that you're having all these people within the district that are seeing these speeches, and you're not going to get any different outcome because you're using the same set of people over and over and over and over again. So hopefully that makes sense the way I'm explaining it. So why I bring that up is that, being it's October, maybe start to think about who you may want to be your judges in your contest coming up and secure those people, or at least have the conversation about what's going to happen when you start to plan out your contest. Because I know, as with anything in life, a lot of times we do stuff at the last minute, and that's where we get into binds where, we end up having to use the same amount of people. But if we plan out far enough ahead in time, we can avoid things like that. Jeff, I see your hand is up. Did you have a question, or is that from before?
Yes, I do have a question.
Sure.
When I think about recruiting judges, I think about talking to some of the members of my own club, and I was just curious, pros and cons of that. Is that a good approach? Is that not a good approach? What are your thoughts on that?
You really need to have a good mixture, and again, it kind of depends what level you're having it at, but you don't want, like Ari said, there's rules against judges being from like the same club as a contestant, and that's now, that being said, if you happen to know Toastmasters outside of District 38 or in, other clubs in other divisions and things like that, as long as they're eligible, you can recruit them in. And again, we'll I think we'll talk a little bit about that next week when we actually talk about, how to plan out a contest. But you really, I'd say the best thing to kind of keep in mind is keeping it fair and impartial. And that's why there's the rule about, the judges being from, same club as a contestant, because thought is they're obviously going to, probably, I'm not saying they're definitely going to vote for them, but, the likelihood is there. If that makes sense. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll give it back to you, Ari. I'm sorry.
That's good. No, it's good. It's very important. And just to say, just comment some tips. So basically, I think it's important to distinguish between the area and division contest, because at the area, basically the area director is organizing it within 4 or 5 clubs, and so you might need to pull some of the members from that group of clubs to be judges. You say, oh, I want someone from my club. If they're available, you might need to have someone from your own area. But at the same time, you can see if some other areas in the division can provide some judges. So what's going to happen? But at the division, then you have more options, because you're pulling from a larger number of clubs. So it becomes easier at the division. Okay, so this is more about the procedure. Yeah, this one yeah. So let's keep that. So yeah, the judges need to remain anonymous, and that via Zoom is very easy because everybody has their camera turned off. Nobody knows who's judging. When you are in person, then it becomes very difficult because everybody's listening to the speeches, and you see someone with a paper writing notes while they are the judges. It's more difficult to be anonymous, but it needs to be done as much as possible. You cannot announce in advance, the judges in this contest are going to be such and such. You need to keep it as much as a secret as possible. Contest official cannot serve in more than one role, which sometimes you wish they could, because if you're running short of people and say, well, someone can be a ballot counter and a timer, but you cannot. You need everyone to be doing only one role and concentrate on that role and do it as good as they can. And also briefings. So briefings are very important. You're going to have a briefing for the contestants where you basically go through all the rules of the contest. You do the order in which they're going to be speaking. They agree on the speaking area. You want to make sure whoever is going to be presenting the speakers, that you can pronounce their names properly, that you get the speech title. So that briefing allows everyone to be on the same page and know exactly what the rules are. And then I think it helps making for a more level playing field. And also you want to have another briefing for all the officers, the judges, the timers, the ballot counters, And in that briefing, you're gonna go through the judging criteria. You're gonna explain the timers, how you wanna the timing, which we're gonna talk about it. It's done by Toastmaster, but all the practical part of that, the ballot counters, if they're not familiar with all the points, how they're awarded, then that's the point where you explain how you're gonna do it. And also, well, so that line is more applicable for when you do it in person, when you actually give the judges the ballots, the timing sheets, the tally sheet for the ballot counters. If you're doing the contest online, then it's very important to prepare for that. You need to distribute to the judges, timers, and ballot counters all their ballots in advance, hopefully like a week early, so make sure they get it. And if you're going to be online, also you need to figure out, if you're a chief judge, how you're going to be collecting those ballots on that timer. Because if you're in Zoom, if you're in person, you can just go and get the papers and that's it. Everybody goes into a room. But if you're via Zoom, you want to email it, you want to text me, you send me a picture, or use Google Forms. There could be very different ways in which those ballots need to be collected. So part of the planning is going to be, how are we going to collect those very important pieces of data. So it needs to be planned in advance, and also have like a backup if someone cannot send me an email, send me a text, something. But it's very important to plan it, because until all the ballots are collected, then the contest cannot move forward. So it's very important to plan for that. Now, at the time of the contest itself, there are different ways in which the speakers need to be introduced, and this is defined by Toastmasters, and it's followed in a way that doesn't give any indication of preference by the contest chair when he's introducing the speakers. So for international humors and tall tales, when the contestants have a prepared speech, then the way to present them is their name, speech title again, and then contestant's name, and that's it. If it's table topics, then you say the contestant name, the topic. I've seen a lot of places where they ask the question or repeat the question twice, but the manual only says to say it once, and then the name again. And if it's an evaluation contest, and there's no topic or speech title, just saying the contestant's name twice. Then the contest proceeds, either speech or table topics or evaluation proceeds. And once the contestants is done, then there's a minute of silence after each speaker, in which the judges are evaluating that speech. That's that contestant. And then after the last speaker is done, then there's silence on all the ballots have been collected. And that's very important. Sometimes some contests say, oh, there's 2 minutes of silence. Well, there's really not 2 minutes. It's as long as it takes for all the ballots to be collected, because the judges need time to tally the results and deliver them to the chief judge. At that point, well, it says, once all ballots are collected, the chief judge, the ballot counter, they leave the room and then they go to count. If it's via Zoom, they're going to be a separate breakout room where they can go and do all that. So the key part when the ballot counters and the chief judge are tallying the votes, it's each first place ranking gets 3 points, each second place gets 2 points, and each third place gets 1 point. Now, if when they add all the points, there are 2 contestants that have the same number of points, then the chief judge will look at the tiebreaker judge's ballot. And what happens is everyone is just going to give, every judge is just going to give first, second, and third place. And the tie-breaking judge is going to rank all the speakers. If there are 6, 7 speakers, the tie-breaking judge is going to say who won first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth place. They need to rank all the speakers. So what the chief judge will do is look at the 2 contestants that have the same ranking, that are on a tie, and then see who's highest on the tiebreaker judge's ballot. And that's the one that gets the higher place, and the other one, of course, the next place. Once the results have been tabulated and verified, then the chief judge needs to record that and then submit to the contest chair, who's going to announce the results. Now, while all this is happening, the contestants are interviewed. So that gives the contestants a chance to talk about themselves, or well, in the interview, usually well, they're going to talk about their subject club, their Toastmaster experience, and any other questions that the interviewer asked them. And that's the way that you can make time for the judge, chief judge, and ballot counters to do the counting and determine the different winners of the contest. After the conclusion of the interviews, which is what I mentioned, then the contest chair announced the winner of the contest. The winners must be announced prior to the end of the event. If there are multiple events, each contest must be officially adjourned, and then you can begin the next one. You don't need to announce the winners of every event. So for example, you have international and humorous speech, you can have them separately, and then at the very end, you can announce all the results. But it's important that you conclude one contest and then start the next one. You cannot overlap those two contests. That the last point is very important. So the announcement of the contest winners is final, unless there was a mistake, which you hope there isn't, but it can happen. In which case the chief judge will kind of just jump in and try to correct the error. But once it's announced and the contest is adjourned, then those results are final. They cannot be contested. That's it. Once you announce them and everybody is agree and saying congratulations to the winners, that's it. That's the end of the contest, and those are final. One of the last things is going to be the timing of the speeches, and even though we know what it is because we're Toastmasters, it's always very important to make sure that they are displayed and everybody is aware of exactly what the times are. So there are going to be two timers. One timer will be measuring the time of the speech. The time of the speech is starting when the contestant says usually the same word or any indication that speaking could be a sound, it could be a jump, or any indication that the speech is starting. That's when the stopwatch starts, and then it ends when the last word is said. And there's going to be another timer who's going to have the signals with the colors to that they need to be visible by the speaker. There was this other rule is a little bit of technical failure of the equipment. The speaker is allowed 30 seconds extra over time before being disqualified. So that adds, there's some room for technical difficulties of 30 seconds without affecting the speaker. These are the timing guidelines. So as we know, international and humorous speech contests are 5 to 7 minutes, and they have 30 seconds of grace before and after those times. So if a contestant is speaking for less than 4 minutes and 30 seconds, it's 40 minutes and 29 seconds, is automatically disqualified. Or if it goes over 7 minutes, 30 seconds. So if you are a speaker and suddenly you see red and you think it's going for too long, just stop. Don't keep talking. It's better to stop talking even if you miss your conclusion than be disqualified because you went over time. For table topics, it's 1 to 2 minutes. The minimum is 1 minute. So if you don't get to that 1 minute, that's it. You're not eligible to rank place, even if you had a great speech. And if you go over 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Evaluation, it's 2 minutes and 2 to 3 minutes. So 1 minute and 30 seconds is the minimum, and 3 minutes and 30 seconds you're disqualified. And table topics. Yeah, why did I have it twice? I need to fix that. Yeah, that should have been. No, yeah, we already had that. So those are the times that are need to be met. And one thing is during the contest, nobody knows what the timing is. That's something that just the chief judge is going to see and determine if someone went over, and then follow the appropriate procedures for disqualification.
Ari, I'm wondering if you would, because I noticed you didn't mention tall tales in here. And
yeah, I think that's what I missed.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at the rule book right now. So basically for tall tales, you'll get green at 3, yellow at 4, and red at 5. So basically for tall tales, it's between 3 and 5 minutes. So
Okay.
basically the the grace period is 30 seconds on both sides. So it would be it has to be at least 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and it can't be any longer than 5 minutes and 30 seconds for tall tales. That is for tall tales. So yeah, before we make these available,
Yeah,
just
I'll fix
update your
that. Yeah,
slides then.
yeah. I
Okay,
was reading
okay,
like, why is this again? Yeah, so I'll
it's fine.
yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, so that's like key. That's very, very important to stay within those guidelines because there is no grace period. Well, there is 30 seconds grace period, but basically above that, it's 7 minutes 31 seconds, you're automatically disqualified, even if the judges voted you to be first place. And one key thing is the judges, they don't know the timing. The judges ignore the timing. They just judge the delivery of the speech. That's something, the timing is something that the chief judge is going to see and it's going to determine if someone is qualified. So as a judge, you don't need to think about timing. You just, even if you see it's red for a long time, you don't care. You just evaluate based on the speech delivery. And that concludes my presentation. So this is the section that the rulebook has about basically all the rules of the contest. After that, it goes into checklist and speech preparation, which is what we will cover at the next session. So what I wanted to do today is just try to summarize all the important rules that need to be followed for the contest and have them in a way that you can reference real quick, or if you want to be more detailed. Chris mentioned you can always go back, and it's recommended to read the rule book, but by presenting here the rules, you can be aware of them, and then if you read the rule book, then you'll be able to recognize them and see which are the most important rules. Or if there's any
Yes, because I will add there, and as Ari said, yes, if you are responsible for putting on a speech contest, my recommendation is to read the rule book, because here's the thing. All the contestants, I'm sure, have read the rule book, and you want to know that thing inside or out, because if you get called on the carpet for it, you want to be able to say, oh, well, the rule book references that. You might not know what page, but at least if you're familiar with what it says, you'll have an idea of like, okay, well, I'm in the right, I'm not in the wrong, even if somebody is bringing it up to you. So we have about 9 minutes. And so thank you, Ari. Number one, yes, thank you, Ari, for putting this together. You did a great job summarizing the rule book here, and of course, hopefully most of you are available next Thursday. Oh, and by the way, just a note, especially if those of you are registered for it, next Thursday session is at 6 o'clock. It is 6 o'clock Eastern time. The reason why is because there's actually a different training going on at 7. So which is a different registration link altogether. But if you are interested in basically coming to the other part of this where Ari is going to talk about basically planning for the contest, it is you can sign up at tmdistrict38.org, go to the event calendar, but no, it is at 6 o'clock. So Jeff, I do see your hand up, and I'll let you unmute and ask your question.
Thanks, Chris. I just wanted to review in terms of the different levels of the speech contests this year. I believe club, area, and division can be virtual, but then district is in person. Is that correct?
Yes. And just to reinforce that, club can, the actual individual clubs can determine however they want to put on their contest. If they want to do it in person, if they want to do it virtual on Zoom or Teams, or however they want to do it virtually, or if they want to do a hybrid, that is up to the club to decide. The district and Toastmasters International cannot dictate how a club is to put on their contest. But District 38, and I realize that there are people from other districts here, but District 38, if you're a part of District 38, we did vote, and our area contests are going to be virtual, our division contests are going to be virtual, and our district contest to be held at our conference outside of Allentown in May, that will be in person. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have any questions? Something need clarified? Anything that we mentioned that seemed unclear at all?
Yes, this is Grisel, and I have a question.
Sure.
With this presentation, I understand that the club needs to host a contest. However, can the club have a designee to represent the next level? And how is the process for that?
So just to clarify, so you're saying, can a club in lieu of holding a contest just decide, okay, we're going to send Joe Schmo to represent ABC Toastmasters?
Yes, that is correct.
I don't know that, and Rhonda, this is where I may pivot to you. I don't believe there is an established procedure in terms of Toastmasters on how to do that. Am I correct in saying that, or is there a prescribed procedure?
They can choose not to have a contest and advance someone to the next level, presuming they meet all of the eligibility criteria for the
Yes.
contest.
All right, thank you very much.
And Grisel, just to kind of build on that, I was wondering if the question was, do they vote on it? Do they just decide, that sort of thing? And there's not like one directed way to do that. I believe, so I'll actually just tell you the situation I was in. I was in a club where basically we asked all the members, because we did not have the resources to put on a contest, and we said, would anybody be interested in representing the club at the area level contest? And only one person said they were interested, and so therefore that person was the person we advanced. I would say if you have a similar situation and you have multiple people interested, that is really up to the club to decide that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. We have about 4 minutes left, and I want to be respectful of time. So at 8 o'clock, we will be signing off, because I'm sure some people want to eat some dinner, get ready for bed, put their kids to bed, that sort of thing. So, but now's the time to ask any questions. But that being said, even though, because it looks like there's no hands raised, because this always seems to happen, if there is anybody here that thinks of a question after the fact, it looks like a hand went up, and I'll get to you in a second, Philip. I just want to give my email address. You can reach out to me. My email address is pqd@tmdistrict38.org, or you can reach out to Ari and I. We have a email address. It's contest-advisor@tmdistrict38.org. And so, Philip, you had your hand raised. So did you have a question?
I do have a quick question. Our club is grown to 40 folks. So say we have 3 or 4 people who want to participate in international and 3 or 4 people who want to participate in humorous. Can I do, as a contest chair, can I do in one meeting international, announce it and be done with that portion, and then in another meeting do humorous on its own, announce the winner and be done with that to move forward to the next level? Or does it have to be in the same meeting?
Oh, essentially, like are you saying hold a international contest in one meeting and oh yeah, you can have them on different dates. Yeah, that definitely does happen. So yeah, you do not have to have your speech contests in the same meeting. They can be separate.
Okay. I think the humorous is going to be very popular with our club. So thank you.
And I'll mention that I think a lot of times the non-international speech is because, as you heard Ari say, the eligibility is more open for people. And I'll just say this too. If you have somebody in your club that you feel like, hey, they're a really good speaker, they give some bang up speeches, but maybe they're not finished level 2, encourage them to participate in the humorous speech, you know? Or if you think it's somebody that could be our next world champion, get them to finish level 2. That is one of the things that maybe not a lot of people think of, but I'm telling all of you that if you're in that position and you know somebody would be really good, but they're not quite at level 2 or finishing it, now's the time. Get those speeches in and get them eligible before the contest season starts. Okay.
Yeah, one thing for the humorous speech that you say someone that's really funny. The thing with the humorous speech is that it cannot be like a stand-up comedy where you do one liner, one joke after the. It has to be a speech. So you cannot you go there and tell 20 jokes and meet the time and expect to win. Even if they're the best jokes in the world, then they don't meet the requirement of being a speech. So I think it's important to be aware that you cannot just go there and do stand-up comedy with jokes, because it's not going to work. It has to have sense of structure and maybe a story to make it funny, but it does have to be a speech. It cannot be just jokes, which could be great, but it would be really funny, but it's not good for Toastmasters wants to see.
So, yeah, we're still in Toastmasters. We still need to be, giving speeches here. Okay. So one last opportunity for any questions. Anything to say in closing, Rhonda?
I just want to give kudos to Ari. This was outstanding training. And I was texting Chris in the background saying, Ari knows this. It was well laid out, methodical. You clearly have command over this. You are going to be a valuable resource, especially during contest season for us. So as Chris mentioned, please reach out to Ari, reach out to Chris if anyone has any questions. There's no poor questions or bad questions. We want you to be empowered and confident in going into contest season. And I, like Chris mentioned, I keep iterating this to people. I am so willing to celebrate back-to-back wins from District 38 for the International Speech Contest. If you have not registered, we are having a coffee side chat with Jocelyn, our current world champion of public speaking, on Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. If you don't have anything on your calendar, feel free to connect. We will record this session for playback later, and you'll be able to hear from her. Encourage people who are interested in competing just to get a flavor of her journey, which there will be some parallels with future people, but it may not be exactly the same, but she may help to provide some sense of what happens, the ins and outs that most people don't see. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Ari.
Okay.